Welcome to the Albuquerque Journal's premier high school sports show, Prep Central, with your host, James Yodice. This show is presented by Western New Mexico University.
Hi there, everyone. Welcome to Preps Central, the Albuquerque Journal's high school sports podcast. I'm James Yodice, the high school sports editor here at the Albuquerque Journal. Welcome. We are into week 9 of the high school football season, and we got plenty to talk about, both from week 8 and week 9. First thing, obviously, want to thank and acknowledge our sponsor, Western New Mexico University. We thank them so much for their support. We're going to talk largely football today. We've got several blockbuster games on tap this weekend in Week 9. We're going to get to that shortly. We're going to talk a little bit about Week 8 first and hit some of the highlights and some of the games that I thought were key as we reflect on Week 8. We're 2.5 weeks away from the field of playoff teams being selected in the 11-man classes. So we're getting right down to the end of it. I want to start with Class 2A football, a game between number 1 Texaco and number 2 Eunice last week, a game that was in Texaco. Eunice, which lost to Texaco in the state championship game last year, came in and scored the first 21 points on Friday night against the Wolverines. Kind of punched them in the mouth. Texaco got a late touchdown in the first half. I think they trailed 21-6 at half, and then they came all the way back to win 36-28. A tremendous comeback win for the Wolverines. Hard to overstate how big a comeback that is. You don't see that too often in a number 1 versus number 2 environment. But these are the two teams that we could clearly see play again on the last day of the season. They're both that good, and they both seem to have that kind of separation. But I wanted to start there. Texaco remains undefeated. And not only that, with a big second half, they let Eunice know they still have their number for the moment anyway. It would be super interesting to me if Eunice gets another crack at Texaco in the playoffs. That game would be in Eunice this time if it came in the semifinals or the championship game. Boy, that would be a really intriguing rematch given what Eunice feels like they probably gave away in this game. Look, teams get up 21-0. You do not expect to lose. Coaches right down the line would be the first to tell you that we probably gave it away. Teams that lead by 3 touchdowns, if you have a championship-level team, you like to think you're going to close somebody out no matter who you're playing. So that'll make for a really super interesting environment down the road if we get to that. We had the all-Las Vegas rivalry game renewed last week at West. Robertson held off West Las Vegas 28-26. West went for a late 2-point conversion, didn't succeed. That was the difference in the game. So Robertson continues to go along. We have 3 major head-to-head games in that district: Robertson versus West, West versus St. Michael's, which is this week, and then Robertson versus St. Michael's, which comes at the end of the season. So the first of the 3 big head-to-head games in that district go to Robertson, and that counts for a lot of currency. This time of year when you're playing your other rivals in a district. La Cueva had an interesting game. I was there the other night, last Thursday, with the Bears and Los Lunas. And Los Lunas played the best first half I've seen anybody play against La Cueva so far this year from New Mexico, not counting Pinnacle High from Phoenix. Los Lunas played a fantastic first half, and they were only trailing 21-16 at half, and that was only because La Cueva hit a touchdown very late, last 30 seconds of the first half to lead. So Los Lunas was very much in this game. Remember, they were in this game for a good long while. Even when they were down, I think, 42-31, Los Lunas was getting the ball back on a punt, and then the Tigers muffed it inside their own 20. La Cueva scored a couple of minutes later, and that was pretty much it. But that was a big turning point in the game. But Los Lunas found a way with Caden Davis, their quarterback, their great dual threat quarterback. And I, as a quick sidebar, if we're talking about the best running quarterbacks in Class 6A, Cam Dyer from La Cueva is an easy choice as one of those 3. Zayden Davis from Centennial is an easy choice as one of those 3. I'm not so sure that Caden Reese from Los Lunas isn't the third. If we're talking about top 3 running quarterbacks in 6A, he did a fantastic job and really kept Los Lunas in this game for a while. But that muff punt when Los Lunas had a chance to get it to a one-score game, that really was a killer. So Los Lunas lost the game, but I think they gained a lot psychologically. They stood toe-to-toe with the number one team in the state for a good part of 3 quarters, and did a pretty fine job. So I think Los Lunas may have gained more than they lost, even with the scoreboard not being in their favor. Meanwhile, of course, La Cueva remains undefeated. Them and Centennial, of course, still have yet to lose a game. Rio Rancho, this is one of the stranger scores, I thought, anyway, from Week 8, was Rio Rancho beating Piedra Vista 36-33. Now, Piedra Vista has not won a game since the first week of the season. I think that when they beat Sandia. And Rio Rancho had all kinds of trouble with the Panthers. I did not see the game personally, so I can't speak about some of the details, but I can tell you Rio Rancho continues to rotate quarterbacks between getting various choices and various options on the field. And it was a struggle. I would not have expected that game to be as close as it was. So I'm not sure what to make of that from Rio Rancho's standpoint, because Rio Rancho has to turn around and play the other Vista, Volcano Vista, this week. We'll talk about that shortly. But that's a bit of a red flag game for me. Rio Rancho winning this game by 3. On paper, Rio Rancho should win this game comfortably. They didn't. And I'm sure Rio Rancho probably feels similarly. But Rio Rancho did survive. I mean, that's the important part for them. They did win and survive. And so, them and Cleveland and Volcano all continue to be undefeated in district. Wanted to mention, too, St. Pius. I wrote about them extensively on Sunday in the Journal. I don't know if you saw it. St. Pius went down on the road, beat Portales 48-18. That score, as I tweeted out, I basically will repeat what I tweeted out on Friday night. That score just jumped off the damn page at me, that Pius went down there and beat Portales by 30. This is a Class 4A district game. All of St. Pius's sophomores, quarterback Isaiah Carpenter, receiver Cale Cox-Liggins, their running back Herschel Alloway, and their athlete Curtis Flakes III. The last 3 all scored 2 touchdowns each in this game. Isaiah Carpenter, St. Pius's quarterback, threw for 4 scores. All 4 of these guys are sophomores. And I wrote Sunday in the Journal that this team might be ready to make a run at things this year. I have been saying all along that I thought Pius would be an easy playoff team this year and maybe make a little noise in the playoffs. It looks like they have accelerated the timeline. I thought they would be ready to challenge for a state title next year, 2025. It looks like they are ready to challenge right now. That is no hyperbole. I mean, Bloomfield's out there, and they're a dominant number 1. We'll see. We'll have a better idea after Bloomfield plays Bernalillo on Friday. But this young St. Pius team, these young kids are growing up so fast, and they're so gifted that if they stay healthy, and they were not healthy last year, so they had an early exit in the playoffs last year, not healthy, got beat early, and, the talk all along was, look, if this team could stay healthy, they could make some noise. And now St. Pius, I think, is ranked up to number 3 in the state in Class 4A, behind Bloomfield and behind Bernalillo. If Pius gets the right playoff draw, this is a team that could end up in the state championship game. Everything is falling into place for them this year. They've beaten Portales. Silver's down a bit. Silver's young and talented. If you're thinking about some of the other teams out there that are kind of on the fringe, Taos, Espanola, Grants, who beat Taos the other day. Are any of these teams capable of beating St. Pius? Yeah, probably. I mean, when you have a young team like St. Pius, sometimes you never know what you're going to get. Young kids can have an off day, and if you catch them on the right day, you never know. But these kids are not playing like sophomores. I mean, all of these sophomores are in their second year on varsity anyway, so it's not like they're new to things. So I do believe, and I wrote about this the other day, that St. Pius, with the right draw, could easily be playing in the state championship game on November 30th. It would not surprise me at this point. They're playing that well, and to go on the road and meet Portales the way they did was, to me, super impressive. So St. Pius is blossoming into one of those really good second half of the season stories. One other game I want to talk about real quick before we switch gears. It was a Saturday afternoon game that I was at. This was my first look at Manzano, who was 5-1, had won 5 in a row. They lost their first game of the year to Highland when Amiri Mumba from Highland, the great running back, was healthy and he had a big day. And Highland beat Manzano on opening day. Manzano had not lost a game since. They went into Academy on Saturday, and Academy isn't even ranked. And Academy just beat up on the Monarchs, 57-26. Really was never close. Some of the Chargers' key athletes, Jet Gallus, Gage Conway, their big receiver, their big 6'5 receiver, their quarterback, William Braun, they're getting great production from their skill guys. And, Academy, if they continue to play at that level, they're going to have a chance, I think, to make some noise. I don't think they're quite where St. Pius is. Remember, Academy and St. Pius played a couple of weeks ago. Academy had a 21-14 lead in that game early in the fourth quarter, and then Pius scored 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter to win 35-21. So Academy feels like they can play with just about anybody. Like I said, Bloomfield remains a mystery to me because I haven't seen them in person. I will on Friday night. I'm really curious to see the Bobcats in person, and Bernalillo, who I have not seen in person yet either. So these are the 2 undefeated teams in 4A, and we'll talk more about that matchup shortly. But out of the other district, where Academy is, Valencia, Manzano, Portales, Silver, and so on, you got a young Pius team, which is capable of great things, and Academy, which appears to have gotten things going back in the right direction in a big way, beating up on Manzano 57-26. That was a whooping. And you're talking, like I said, you don't usually see unranked teams beat a ranked team like that by 31 points. So that caught my eye as well. So that kind of highlights some of the top action from week 8. Before we get into Week 9 and some of the games on tap, and there are certainly a few worth watching, I wanted to talk about some of our nominees for Star of the Week for Week 8. I wanted to run them down real quick. Cam Dyer's on this list again, and he pretty much had to be. He threw for 7 scores, also ran for a 43-yard touchdown in that win over Los Lunas. Alex Fuentes, a sophomore running back from Texaco, gets on the list. He ran for 210 yards and 3 touchdowns, including the game winner in the fourth quarter for Texaco. He also had several 2-point conversions in that game. Gage Conway, the junior receiver from Academy. This is a really impressive physical specimen. He is 6'5". He caught 4 touchdown passes the other day in that win over Manzano. And I mean, on 2 of them, he literally just basically stood there and put his hands over the helmet of the defensive back from Manzano and just snatched the ball without even having to leave the ground. He's that big and that physical. Really impressive kid. He also kicked a field goal in this game. Braylon Williams, senior receiver from Hope Christian. Big day for him against Pewaukee Valley. 7 passes, 200 yards, 2 scores. He rushed for a score, and he also had an interception for Hope, which beat the Elks 35-6. And then we have another repeat customer here this week, Uriel Castro, the senior quarterback from Bernalillo. He threw for 7 touchdown passes for the second time this season. And like Cam Dyer in the game against Los Lunas, he also rushed for an 8th score as Bernalillo beat Aztec 62-12. Castro threw for 343 yards. And if you're talking about great quarterback matchups, that one with Blake Spencer from Bloomfield is the perfect segue where to begin talking about Week 9. So there are several blockbuster games on the schedule, as I noted at the start. You have Artesia playing host to Roswell, rematch of the state championship game. That's number 1 against number 2. We have number 1 against number 2 in 4A with Bloomfield at 1, Bernalillo at 2. Both of them are defeated. And the other game is Volcano Vista playing at Rio Rancho, 2 top 6 teams in 6A. We're going to start with Bernalillo and Bloomfield. This, as I just noted, this is one of the best, and maybe actually probably the best quarterback matchup we've had in any 4A game this season. Blake Spencer from Bloomfield is is as prolific as it gets for 4A quarterbacks. And this has been a tremendous offense all year. And they're coming up against this Bernalillo defense, which fancies itself as a pretty stout group. And we're going to get a pretty good idea of where these two teams rate against one another this week. They play in Bloomfield at 6 o'clock on Friday. I'm going up for this game. I'm very much excited to see how this one plays out. And you've got, like I said, Uriel Castro on one side, Blake Spencer on the other. A ton of weapons in this game. To me, on the surface, the question is, can Bernalillo's defense hold up? Bloomfield has been going up and down the field on everybody. Can this Bernalillo defense, and I'm telling you, the Spartans love their defense. They love to hit. They love to get after it. Can this defense hold up against Bloomfield? So we're going to see. I don't know. The weather's supposed to be a little iffy. I don't know if it is. I believe there's some rain in the forecast on Friday in the Four Corners. I looked. Rain would be bad, I think, for the defense. When you're in the offense on a wet field, you know which way you're going. The defense doesn't. So I think that would give an edge to Bloomfield if we had wet field conditions or rainy conditions. I think that would give an extra edge to Bloomfield in that way. But, Bernalillo, and we've talked about them before, Bernalillo wants a signature win. We've talked about this a couple of times. And they beat Portales earlier in the year. I did not call that a signature win because Paxton Culpepper, Portales' great quarterback, got injured, didn't play in that game, really. So I couldn't really assign a quote-unquote signature part to the victory there. Bernalillo did have that fantastic road win at Espanola Valley several weeks back, 21-20 in overtime. That was, and they were down 14-0 in the fourth quarter. That was a fantastic win, and that was much closer to a signature win. A little bit of the luster came off that when Espanola turned around and lost the next week to Taos, but that was still a fantastic win. And now Bernalillo plays Bloomfield. This is one of the biggest regular season games Bernalillo has ever played. Bloomfield's been in a lot of these games over the years. This is not new to them. This is new for Bernalillo. Whatever they say about it, this is new territory for them. I can't think off the top of my head, and I've been thinking about this during the day today. I can't think of too many games that Bernalillo has ever played, even in a playoff situation, that would rate as more important or higher profile than this one they're playing at Bloomfield on Friday. So I am very excited to see how this game plays out. A lot of weapons on both sides of the ball. Bernalillo is a team that has everything to prove. Look, the winner of this game probably wins the district title in District 1-4A and almost certainly will cement a top 4 seed, which means a first-round playoff bye. The loser of the game, depending on the score of this game, whoever loses this game, Bloomfield or Bernalillo, will probably still be in really good position to be a top 4 seed as well. Like I said, depending on the score and assuming that they don't slip up the last 2 weeks of the year. So we've got that game going on in the Four Corners. Now, down in the southeast part of the state at Bulldog Bowl, you've got number 1 Artesia and number 2 Roswell, who are both coming off their bye weeks. And as another sidebar, every one of the 16 teams in Class 5A had a bye last week. Every single one of them, which is something I can never recall in my whole career. At the Journal, an entire classification all taking off on the same week, but that is what we had. All of them were off. So everybody's coming back out of their bye weeks. The last time these two met was also in Artesia state championship game, and Artesia won 35-21, getting after that Roswell defense. Artesia has looked great. Look, they've been over 57 points in all 4 of their last games. In fact, have scored 57 exactly in their last 3. So this Artesia offense is going to be a real challenge for this Roswell defense, which isn't nearly as stout as it was last year. It's a good unit, not nearly as dominant or suffocating as it was last year. So Roswell goes in, and I'm sure they want more than a measure of payback here against Artesia. This is one of the state's great rivalry games, and I'll be following that one pretty closely from the press box in Bloomfield as we go along. So that is a fantastic matchup as well. Locally, I mentioned Volcano Vista and Rio Rancho. You've got 3 teams in this district, all 2-0 in district: Cleveland, Volcano, and Rio Rancho. So much like that 3A district I've referenced with Robertson, West Las Vegas, and St. Mike's, same kind of thing here. This is the first of 3 real key showdown games in this district. We'll still have Volcano Vista and Cleveland coming up, and then Cleveland Rio Rancho at the end of the season. So how these 3 teams finish in District 1 6A will depend pretty much entirely on how the scores come head-to-head. I've spoken very highly of Volcano. This defense has been really outstanding all year. I definitely give Volcano Vista the edge. Volcano is my pick this week, and I should mention I picked Bloomfield over Bernalillo, and I picked Artesia over Roswell. Not because they're playing at home. I just feel like these are the better teams. I'm picking Volcano to win at Rio Rancho. Like I said, Rio Rancho, the closeness of the win over PV, I expect them to shake off some of that this week, but Volcano's been the better team this year, straight up. There's no question about it. Some other games let's talk about. We talked about West Las Vegas and St. Mike's. They're playing in Santa Fe on Saturday afternoon. Big game for both those teams. From the Roswell Artesia district, we've got a couple of other really interesting games out there. Lovington and Gadsden playing in Anthony. Lovington has been slumping of late. They need to get back on track. Gadsden has been solid all year. They struggled against Roswell. They struggled against Artesia, so they could use a big win in this district. And then Mayfield is playing Goddard. Mayfield, of course, coming off that great overtime win on the road at Lovington 2 weeks ago. Mayfield's been in a lot of close games. The week before that, they lost with 12 seconds left at Deming. So Mayfield's been in some close games. So Mayfield and Goddard, a key game in that district as well. We were talking about Robertson a minute ago. Robertson is actually here in Albuquerque. If you want to go see him play, they're playing Hope Christian on Saturday morning out at Community Stadium. I won't be able to see them, but they will be down here to play. Now, the week gets started, of course, as it always does on Thursday night. Several games of note for teams here in the Albuquerque metro area. Cibola is up in Farmington. La Cueva back on the field to play at Trisco Heritage. Look, La Cueva's last 3 games are against a Trisco, Santa Fe, and Albuquerque High, and then La Cueva is going to end up with a bye week in the first round of the playoffs. So it's going to be a while before we see La Cueva on the field with someone that's going to be able to push back significantly against them, at least the quarterfinals, maybe even the semifinals of the state playoffs. So I think the key for La Cueva is just to kind of stay healthy and take care of business. And then the game I'll be at Thursday night, Highland and Belen at Milne. I was told by Coach Philip Lovato from Highland that after Highland's bye week, which was last week, that we would start to see Amiri Mumba, their great running back, returning to his really heavy ball-carrying workload. And by that, I'm talking about a kid that could carry the ball 30 or 35 times. When he's going well, Highland is a load. When he's not in the game, there are questions. That's just it. Highland just seems to play better and block better when he's in the backfield. So, and they need him because, Highland's coming off a loss most recently to Miyamura week before last here at Milne. So Highland needs to get back on track. Belen is another team that could surely use a win in this district, and we've got a lot of teams in the middle of this district. You've got Los Alamos and Miyamura up top, and then you've got teams like Valley, Highland, Belen, and I'm forgetting someone. But you've got several teams in the middle all jostling for position. So all these head-to-head games, and Highland Belen counts as one of those games, means a great deal, even in Week 9. So we're going to see how that plays out. Anyway, that kind of takes care of all our football responsibilities for the week. But one other thing I wanted to mention before I get out of here, in case you missed it last Thursday, the New Mexico Activities Association is going to have a new executive director starting November 1st. Sally Marquez, who has held that job since September of 2012, she is leaving. Halloween Day will be her last official day in office as the executive director. The man who served alongside of her for pretty much her entire tenure, Dusty Young, is going to assume the executive director's spot starting Friday, November 1st. So I plan on doing some profile stuff on both Sally and Dusty when we get closer to the end of the month. But I think Dusty's selection is a popular one. The coaches know him straight across the board. They know him. They like him. Dusty's a very even-keeled, even-tempered kind of guy. I suspect there are a couple of changes coming down the road. I don't even want to give it up. There are a couple of things I've heard about this. I don't even want to give it up. Nothing sinister, but there are a couple of changes I heard that might be coming down the road in a couple of sports. I don't even want to say what sports they are. And I'm going to be following this as we go along. And we'll talk more about this when the time is appropriate. So we've got change at the NMAA coming up here in a couple of weeks. So congratulations to Dusty and 12 years for Sally as executive director, plus another 8 on staff before she took the job. Last bit of business before I get out of here today. If you follow cross country, the pre-state extravaganza race at Albuquerque Academy is coming on Saturday of this week. Starts at 9 a.m. I'm going to be there all day. This is basically a preview of the state meet. Pretty much, I think other than Zuni, I was told, pretty much every other great cross country program in the state, boys and girls, are going to be competing. There's a 5A, just like state, there's a 5A division, a 4A division, a 3A division, and a combined 1A and 2A division. So it's going to be a long day out at Academy. This gives them a chance to take a look and run the course that they'll see again at the state meet on November 9th, I believe. So it's going to be a stacked field of teams. I'm looking forward to it. And like I said, this will be the closest thing we're going to get to a state preview, assuming everybody stays healthy. So I'll be reporting from there on Saturday. And we're also down to the last week and a half of soccer. A lot of big games between now and next weekend when we get the playoff fields announced. So I appreciate you listening. Once again, we thank Western New Mexico University for being the sponsor of our podcast. I go out and enjoy the football this weekend. I know most of the major games are outside the metro area. You do have Volcano Vista and Rio Rancho on Friday night. If you have a chance to do that one, that should be a heck of a game. Or if you want to get on the car, Bulldog Bowl and Artesia is always a great option, though you better get your tickets now. And Bloomfield and Bernalillo up in Bloomfield should be an awesome time as well. We're going to talk a lot about those games in next week's podcast. Until then, you can, of course, see our podcast on abqjournal.com. You can see them on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, I believe. So there are many platforms you can catch these podcasts if you want to watch. Anyway, thanks for taking the time to sit with me, and I'll look forward to seeing you guys next week.
Thank you for joining us. You can find this episode and all our podcasts on the Albuquerque Journal website, abqjournal.com, as well as on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud. If you enjoy our podcasts, please like and subscribe, and consider becoming a digital subscriber to the Albuquerque Journal to help us continue to bring you more content like this. See the show notes for a discount on a digital subscription. Thank you for supporting the Albuquerque Journal, New Mexico's leading local news source.